Gary Atensi with CNTV, and today we're in Denver, Colorado. We're at Classic Image Automotive Detailing. I am here with the owner and founder, Michael. Let me ask you, Michael, for over 30 years, you guys have been providing some great detailing, not only for individuals, but businesses as well. Let's start out. What first got you involved in this line of work?
Well, I have this sort of passion for enhancing things. Doesn't matter whether it's cars. I used to landscape. It could be something at the house where I see a piece of furniture that I want to strip the paint and bring out the wood. So it's one of those kind of things. So.
Wonderful. Let me ask you, for the viewers out there, a lot of them, majority have gotten their car washed before. Let's explain to them a little bit, first of all, what the difference between just getting your car washed and automotive detailing.
It's really huge because one of the misnomers is that people take their cars through the chemical car washes and they're paying for convenience and they're not paying much, and there's kind of a catch-22 to it all, meaning that they're relying on chemicals to eat the dirt off rather than lift the dirt, and if it doesn't get the dirt off and they hit wax, it is sealing the dirt.
Wow, interesting. Let's start off first of all with before we jump into your specialty services, a basic service. If somebody wants to come in and get kind of a head to toe on the car, what are some of the basic services you offer?
Well, if someone has the whole thing done, we generally take 20% off. When someone calls on the phone, typically if it's a dark color car, it starts at $300. Prices can vary depending on the size, the color, condition. But I go on to say that whenever I make any adjustments, it's either from fair to moderate or moderate to severe. So being a consumer myself, I'm pretty sensitive about pricing. So it's not like, I expect my computer to make the final decision. People are gasping for air. That never happens. People are like taken back going, wow.
Wow. Excellent. Let's start with the front of the car. We're talking about the engine. What are you able to do for the engine there?
Well, essentially what I do is I use a degreaser and I evaluate, the inside of the motor, and essentially, I'm using a pressure washer that has heat, and then it's, along with the chemicals, it removes the dirt. But you have to be careful with a lot of the chemicals that you use and the pressure because of the computer technology that they have inside the cars, especially in the motors. So you can't be putting, the pressure washer really close to the motor. It's more of a rinse, and then you get the dirt off, and dirt causes heat, and heat causes friction. So, the cleaner you keep something, then of course everything works the way it's supposed to. So,
wonderful. So we're not talking about just the outside of your car looking great. We're talking about something that basically will help your car feel a lot better and work a lot better for yourself. The exterior of the car, what are you able to do as far as bringing out that color?
Well, one of the things that is key is that, of course, people shop around for price, and that's fine, but the old adage, you get what you pay for. So people often think, they'll call me and ask, what do I charge? But I can't see their car. So it's virtually impossible. You call a dentist or a doctor and say, I've got this problem, what's it going to cost? It's like, well, bring it closer to the phone. So essentially, when I see the car, I get some kind of ballpark idea of what I'm dealing with. But I've looked at cars outside so many times, and then I bring it in the shop, and I'm just shaking my head going, oh, no. And so I go through the process, and then they pick their vehicle up, and they're just taken back. They think I've painted their car, or they wanted to sell it and change their mind. So there's a lot of positive things that go on. So
that is very cool. Let's go into the interior. As far as the interior goes, we're talking about fabric interior, leather interior. Are you able to service all those?
Absolutely. When it comes to stains, I'm real particular, having knowledge about how to approach a particular problem, whether it be coffee, food related. If it's milk related, someone has children and they get a milk spill, the issue there is that if they don't use an enzyme to kill the bacteria, even though they think they've gotten all the milk out, when the weather gets warm, you still smell the odor. So it's real important to know how to correct the problem. I call it the kitchen sink mindset, where people just grab anything underneath the kitchen sink and squirt on something and think they're going to solve the problem. Now, women are a little more astute when it comes to that because they take care of their clothes and they look at the material and how do they take care of it so it will last. Guys would typically throw it in the washer, but men are learning, a lot from women as far as hygiene and how to take care of things, and now we have an opportunity to say this is how you take care of a car. So,
interesting. Speaking of taking care of the interior, interior there. Like you said, not only pulling the odors from the car, cleaning it, but what about conditioning the actual leather?
Well, that's another important issue too, because you don't want to use just any product on the leather. You have to be real careful. If you use something that's too strong and it's not specific, then it can actually either dry out the leather or strip the color out. Most dyes are on the surface. You do get some wear. We do offer a service where we can repair or re-dye, any leather problems. So if there's a tear or a wear, we have the ability to fix that as well as vinyl.
Wonderful. So we're talking about kind of a head to toe on a complete automobile, and the best way is obviously to bring it in so you can take a look at it, get a real good idea of how bad it's been abused or basically how well it's been maintained, either way.
Well, typically, there's a few exceptions where people are really good at it, and of course, in that particular instance, I take every measure to keep the price down. But I do tell people they're paying me for my time and my expertise, and I'm putting value back into their vehicle. So that's a thing that is really a tickle, is when they're thinking of selling and they'll go, "Darn you, Mike," and I'll go, "What's wrong?" They go, "Nothing." And I go, "Well, what gives me? I don't want to sell it." So it's usually shifting people's attitude to something really positive, so it's pretty neat. So
absolutely. Let me ask you, as far as some of the specialty services, your paintless dent repair, tell me about that. How does that work?
Well, there's a lot of different people, in any industry, and there's some people that just put a little more passion into their work than others. For me, it's not about the money, although I'm concerned for the consumer. For me, I give people a lot more of my time than I charge them for. The people that I use for resources when it comes to paintless dent repair, they're just exceptional. I don't just find somebody who I don't know. I have relationships that are long-lasting for people that really take the same pride, so that the customer is going to have a great experience all the way across the board.
Wonderful. As far as a little bit of preventive maintenance, good for anything, what about the front of the car as far as your 3M covering? Are you able to do that?
Yes, we do offer 3M clear bras, and typically the dealership will put it on the hood. They don't put it on the bumper, and yet that has more exposure because it requires two people to do it, and the film is very expensive, and if you make a mistake, it's costly. So they usually do the hood, the fenders. We do the entire front end, and generally our price is the same as the dealership, but we're providing that added, protection on the bumper. So.
Wonderful. And let's say it's something, maybe not a dent, but we picked up a few scratches here and there. Is something like that, is that able to be brought out?
Well, whenever there's a scratch, you never fill it in. So it's really more about finessing the scratch. There's various ways to approach it. Sometimes it can be done with clear. Other times a scratch can be 12 inches long and only 2 inches of it is really deep. So when you're sanding the clear coat, you have to really be careful. I always emphasize on finessing someone's car. You never fill in a scratch. So when someone tells you they're filling a scratch, they have no experience to really understand the process.
Wonderful. And lastly, color sanding. I imagine your specialty has to be these darker cars, a little bit more attention to.
Well, color sanding is a whole different level, and I generally don't promote that unless someone has gotten a really poor paint job from a name I won't mention, but I've taken paint jobs that weren't so good and put the time in and took $1,000 paint job and made it look like a $4,000 paint job. So I do have that skill set, and body shops and mechanic shops endorse me because I complement their business. So it's not me cranking out cars. I do 2 cars a day, that's it. Sometimes I need more time. It's always about the quality.
Quite honestly, it is the art of automotive detailing. What basically you're doing is you're getting a quality professional who is literally spending 4 to 6 hours on that car. We're talking about 2 cars a day. Definitely it is something that it's an investment for your automobile. I mean, quite honestly, the automobile is the second largest investment we make as consumers, and we definitely want to hand over something like this to a professional compared to just taking it down the road and who knows what gets put on it. What is the actual process as far as if somebody wants to come in? Do they get an estimate? How does that work?
Well, typically, yes, I'll give them, an estimate. It's not an exact price because I never know until I start the process. But yes, I can give them a range, and I try to stay as close to that as possible. I rarely go over the range. There have been some exceptions where I'm working on something and it's really, getting the best of me. And so I call the customer up and politely say, this is taking a little more time. Any adjustments I ever make, I'm really sensitive sensitive to those adjustments because I'm a consumer as well, and I know in these times, you know, sometimes it can get up there a little bit, but more often than not, I give people a second discount.
But like anything, value in, value out, and when it comes to selling that car, I imagine you are able to help people get what they really truly should get on that Blue Book.
Yeah.
Not only that, but I think if I brought a car in, I'd probably bring it in. A guy might not want to sell it after you've done it.
That happens far too often. I mean, one day I'll probably write a book because there's just too many funny but great stories where people were thinking of selling it, and of course I've got people that have made $2,000 to $5,000 about the Blue Book. And so sometimes people are skeptical because they're thinking, yeah, right. But, you know, I tell them, you state what the Blue Book is, you bump it up 2,000 and you put or best offer, and then you zip it, you know. And then when they see the car, they either change their mind and don't want to sell it, or they keep the car longer. And so that can be a win-win when the wife says, I want another car, and then I detail the car and she's ecstatic. So, you know, it always has a positive outcome. So that's the biggest joy for me. So.
Absolutely. And folks, basically, if you value your car, value basically your automobile, you'll bring it on down to Classic Image. Michael basically has been working under one premise, and that is that you can't substitute great quality. I mean, basically.
No, you can't. And I do offer a maintenance program so that once I do someone's car, it states on the back of the invoice that my objective is to keep the price down. And if there's little things, I'm going to take care of it. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose. If there's something, you know, that's a little more serious, like a scratch, and kind of extends the time frame, I'll make a judgment call, but I still want to be fair to the customer.
Wonderful. And so what you want to do is check out the website right there, and the phone number is at the bottom of the screen as well. Give them a call. You can come on in, and I believe you're open by appointment. Is that right?
That's correct.
Excellent. So you can basically give him a call. He'll set up a time when you can come in, and he'll give you somewhat of an estimate to see what it is that you want done. He'll also let you know what kind of services that he offers across the board. But obviously for over 30 years, he's been providing for individuals and businesses out there. And so be it a Ferrari like the one in front of me, or any one of your cars that you feel is very valuable to you, he's going to take care of you. This is Gary Atencia with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.